I was born into a world of promise and privilege in 253 AD in the heart of the Roman Empire. My father, Carus, was a distinguished military officer with a keen mind for strategy and a reputation for decisiveness. My mother, whose name history has not recorded as prominently, was a nurturing presence, ensuring that my brother Carinus and I grew up in an environment rich with culture and learning. Our family villa, nestled near the Tiber River, was a sanctuary of knowledge, where the wisdom of the ages flowed as freely as the water in the garden's fountains. My early years were marked by rigorous education, a tradition my father held in the highest regard. He would often say, "A young mind needs to be filled by knowledge, lest it become idle." These words echoed through the atrium as Carinus and I sat by his side, absorbing lessons on history, politics, and philosophy. My father's dedication to our education was unyielding. He believed that a true leader must be as wise as he is strong, and he took it upon himself to mold us into such figures. Our tutor, a learned Greek named Theophilus, was a master of many disciplines. From him, we learned the art of rhetoric, the intricacies of mathematics, and the philosophical teachings of Plato and Aristotle. Theophilus was a stern yet patient teacher who encouraged us to question the world around us and to seek out knowledge with relentless curiosity. He often took us to the vast library in Rome, where we would spend hours poring over scrolls and manuscripts, lost in the annals of history and the musings of great thinkers. Despite our rigorous academic schedule, my brother and I were also trained in the physical arts. Our father believed that a sound body was essential to a sound mind. We practiced daily in the palestra, learning the skills of swordsmanship, archery, and horsemanship. These activities were not mere pastimes, but essential preparations for the responsibilities that lay ahead. Under the watchful eye of experienced soldiers, we honed our skills, learning to balance the demands of intellect and physical prowess. As we grew older, my father began to introduce us to the intricacies of statecraft. We would accompany him to the Senate, where we witnessed the complexities of Roman politics firsthand. These experiences were invaluable, giving us a practical understanding of governance and the challenges that came with leadership. My father's interactions with senators and generals were lessons in diplomacy and strategy, showing us the importance of alliances and the art of negotiation. In these formative years, I developed a deep sense of duty to Rome. I saw the empire as a living entity, one that required the wisdom of its leaders and the strength of its soldiers to thrive. My father's teachings instilled in me a profound respect for the traditions of Rome and a desire to contribute to its greatness. Little did I know then that these lessons would soon be put to the test in ways I could never have imagined. Our family life, though disciplined, was also filled with moments of warmth and joy. We celebrated festivals with grandeur, partook in the gladiatorial games, and enjoyed the theater. My father's position afforded us a life of comfort, but it was his love for Rome that truly defined our existence. He often spoke of the empire's grandeur and its duty to uphold justice and peace. His vision for Rome became our vision, and his dedication to its future became our guiding light. In this nurturing yet demanding environment, I grew from a curious child into a young man ready to take on the mantle of leadership. The path laid out before me was one of honor and responsibility, and I embraced it with all my heart. My father's wisdom, Theophilus's teachings, and the experiences of my youth shaped me into the person I was destined to become. The lessons of my early years were the foundation upon which my future reign would be built, a reign that would be marked by both triumph and tragedy. The year was 283 AD, and Rome was engaged in a fierce conflict with the Sasanian Empire. My father, Carus, had ascended to the throne, leading our legions with unmatched valor. As his sons, Carinus and I stood by his side, learning the art of war and the burdens of command. It was during this campaign that fate intervened, altering the course of my life forever. In the summer of 283, my father was struck down by illness, or so the official records claimed. Rumors swirled about the true nature of his death, with some whispering of divine retribution or foul play. The suddenness of his passing left a vacuum in leadership that needed to be swiftly filled. In the midst of this turmoil, Carinus and I were thrust into the roles of co-emperors, with my brother ruling the West and I the East. Our father's death was a profound loss, but there was little time for mourning. The army, still entrenched in enemy territory, looked to us for guidance. My first act as emperor was to secure the loyalty of the legions and ensure a safe return to Roman soil. It was a daunting task, one that tested every lesson my father had imparted. Despite my inexperience, I endeavored to lead with wisdom and strength. My education had prepared me for the intellectual challenges of rule, but the realities of war demanded resilience and quick decision-making. Surrounded by seasoned generals and advisors, I navigated the complexities of military command, striving to uphold the honor of Rome and the legacy of my father. A pivotal moment came during a council meeting in our camp near the Euphrates. "We must march north, through the Bosporus," advised Appa, my father-in-law and trusted Praetorian prefect. His strategic acumen was well respected, and I relied heavily on his counsel. We devised a plan to withdraw our forces strategically, minimizing casualties and preserving our strength for future battles. As we journeyed back, the weight of the empire pressed heavily upon me. Each decision carried immense consequences, and the responsibilities of leadership were a constant reminder of my father's teachings. His voice echoed in my mind, urging me to remain steadfast and true to the values he had instilled. By the autumn of 284, we reached the Bosporus. It was here that my health began to falter. A severe eye disease, possibly contracted during the harsh campaign, left me debilitated. Despite my condition, I strove to maintain my duties, relying on Appa to handle many of the day-to-day military operations. My inability to lead from the front was a source of deep frustration, but I remained determined to fulfill my role as emperor. The loyalty of the troops was paramount, and I sought to inspire them through my resolve and commitment. I addressed them whenever possible, my voice strained yet resolute, urging them to stand firm for the glory of Rome. In these moments, I felt the true weight of leadership, a burden I bore with honor and dedication. As winter approached, the journey became increasingly arduous. My health continued to decline, casting a shadow over our progress. Unbeknownst to me, darker plots were unfolding, threatening not only my reign, but my very life. The trust I placed in those around me would soon be tested in the most tragic of ways. My ascension to the throne was marked by both opportunity and adversity. The lessons of my youth, the wisdom of my father, and the support of my advisors guided me through these turbulent times. Yet the greatest challenges lay ahead, as the full weight of imperial power and the treachery it attracted would soon reveal. In the year 283 AD, I found myself at the helm of the Roman Empire, co-ruling with my brother Carinus. While he managed the affairs of the West, I took charge of the East, a region fraught with challenges and opportunities. My reign, though brief, was a testament to the resilience and tenacity I inherited from my father, Carus. Upon securing the legion's loyalty and beginning our march homeward, I turned my attention to the administration of the eastern provinces. The region, stretching from the Aegean Sea to the Euphrates, was a tapestry of diverse cultures and peoples. My goal was to ensure stability and prosperity, fostering unity amidst diversity. My first major initiative was to reform the tax system. The burden of taxation had long weighed heavily on the populace, breeding resentment and unrest. I introduced measures to alleviate these burdens, ensuring a more equitable distribution of wealth. This initiative was met with cautious optimism, as the people saw in me a ruler who understood their plight. During this time, my health continued to deteriorate. The eye disease I had contracted during the campaign worsened, often leaving me in excruciating pain. Despite this, I remained determined to fulfill my duties. I conducted affairs of state from my quarters, relying heavily on the advice and support of my inner circle, particularly my father-in-law, Aper. One of the defining moments of my reign was the negotiation of a peace treaty with the Sasanian Empire. Realizing that continued conflict would only further drain our resources and weaken our defenses, I sought a diplomatic resolution. Envoys were dispatched, and after weeks of tense negotiations, we reached an agreement that secured our eastern borders and allowed for a much-needed respite from warfare. This period of relative peace enabled me to focus on internal development. I initiated a series of public works projects aimed at rebuilding and fortifying cities that had suffered from the constant turmoil. Roads were repaired, aqueducts were constructed, and temples were restored. These efforts not only improved the infrastructure, but also served to renew the people's faith in the stability and benevolence of the empire. Amidst these achievements, the strain of leadership and my failing health were ever present. My condition required frequent rest, and I was often confined to my chambers. It was during one such period of confinement that I sensed a growing unease among my advisors and generals. Whispers of dissent and suspicion began to permeate the court, casting a pall over my reign. Aper, once a pillar of support, began to assume more control over military and administrative matters. While his competence was unquestionable, his ambition started to raise concerns. I tried to keep a watchful eye, but my illness left me vulnerable. My wife, who was Aper's daughter, assured me of her father's loyalty, but even she could not dispel the growing sense of foreboding. In the late autumn of 284, as we approached the Bosporus, the situation reached a critical point. My health had worsened to the extent that I could no longer appear before my troops. Aper took command, ostensibly to maintain order and morale. Unbeknownst to me, his ambitions had taken a darker turn. One evening, as I lay in my tent racked with pain, Aper entered with an air of somber determination. "Rest, my emperor," he said, his voice laced with a hidden edge. "We must ensure the stability of Rome, even if it means making difficult decisions." His words, meant to reassure, only deepened my unease. I sensed that a storm was brewing, one that would threaten not only my reign but my life itself. Despite these challenges, I remained resolute in my commitment to Rome. My reign, though short and marked by personal suffering, was driven by a desire to uphold the values my father had instilled in me. The reforms I enacted and the peace I negotiated were testaments to my dedication. Yet, as the shadows lengthened, I could not shake the feeling that my time was running out, and that the true test of my legacy was yet to come. As the autumn of 284 AD gave way to the biting chill of winter, my health deteriorated to an almost unbearable extent. The debilitating eye disease that plagued me left me nearly blind and in constant agony. Despite my efforts to govern with steadfast resolve, my physical state became a significant hindrance. Aper, my father-in-law, continued to assert his influence, ostensibly to maintain stability within the ranks and ensure the empire's smooth functioning. However, his motives grew increasingly opaque. The march back to Roman territory had been long and arduous. Our encampment near the Bosporus was a temporary respite, but the atmosphere was fraught with tension. Aper's control over military and administrative duties was becoming more pronounced, and I could feel the loyalty of my troops beginning to waver. I was confined to my quarters more often than not, leaving me isolated and vulnerable. One fateful evening, as a cold wind howled through the camp, Aper summoned a council of generals. I was too ill to attend, but I received reports of their discussions. Aper spoke of the need for strong, decisive leadership, hinting that my illness rendered me incapable of fulfilling my duties. These veiled insinuations planted seeds of doubt among the commanders, who began to question the wisdom of following a debilitated emperor. In my private chamber, I lay on a couch, the flickering lamplight casting shadows on the walls. My wife, concerned for my well-being, sat by my side, holding my hand. "We must trust in the loyalty of our men," she said softly, though her eyes betrayed her worry. "Our pair is doing what he thinks is best for..." Her words were meant to comfort, but they only heightened my anxiety. Aper's actions grew increasingly bold, and I feared that his ambition would soon eclipse his loyalty. That night, as I tried to rest, my mind raced with thoughts of betrayal and survival. The following morning, I was unable to rise from my bed. Aper, seeing my condition, took it upon himself to address the troops. He assured them that I was resting and would soon recover, but the murmurings of doubt were becoming louder. Later that day, he visited me in my tent, his expression grave. "My emperor," he began, "the men need to see a leader who is strong and capable. Your illness, though unfortunate, is creating uncertainty. We must think of the empire's stability." I looked at him, my vision blurred, but my resolve unshaken. "I will recover, Aper," I replied, my voice weak but firm. "Until then, you must act in my stead with loyalty and honor." Aper bowed and left the tent, but his words lingered, haunting me. That night, as I lay in a fevered sleep, the sense of impending doom was palpable. Sometime during the night, the boundaries of sleep and wakefulness blurred, and I felt a presence in the room. My instincts screamed danger, but my body was too weak to react. The next morning, the camp was abuzz with shocking news. I was dead. My lifeless body, found in my quarters, was quickly shrouded in secrecy. Aper, seizing the moment, declared that I had succumbed to my illness. He assumed command, but his true intentions soon became clear. Accusations of treachery flew, and suspicions of foul play in my death began to surface. Aper's attempt to consolidate power was swiftly challenged by the troops. The loyal soldiers, disillusioned by his actions, rallied behind Diocletian, the commander of the household guards. In a dramatic confrontation, Diocletian accused Aper of my murder, a charge that resonated with the anger and suspicion brewing among the ranks. In a swift and decisive act, Diocletian executed Aper, thus ending his bid for power and avenging my death. With Aper's downfall, Diocletian ascended to the throne, marking the beginning of a new chapter for the Roman Empire. My reign had been brief and tumultuous, overshadowed by betrayal and fraught with challenges. My death, though shrouded in mystery and controversy, became a catalyst for significant change. The legacy of my rule, marked by my efforts to reform and stabilize the empire, was overshadowed by the dramatic events surrounding my demise. Yet, in those final moments, I hoped that my dedication to Rome and the values instilled in me by my father would be remembered, even as the empire moved forward under new leadership. In the aftermath of my death in 284 AD, the Roman Empire stood at a crossroads. The rapid rise and fall of my reign left a profound impact on the empire's political landscape. My death, shrouded in mystery and treachery, catalyzed significant transformations that would shape the future of Rome. Diocletian, who ascended to the throne following the execution of Aper, quickly set about consolidating his power. He was a shrewd and capable leader, determined to restore stability to an empire rocked by internal strife and external threats. Diocletian's reign marked the beginning of the Dominate, a period characterized by autocratic rule and significant administrative reforms. Despite the brevity of my tenure, my reign was not without merit. The reforms I introduced, particularly in the taxation system, laid the groundwork for future administrative changes. My efforts to alleviate the tax burdens on the populace were recognized as attempts to address systemic inequalities and foster economic stability. These measures, though overshadowed by the dramatic events of my demise, contributed to the broader restructuring that Diocletian would later implement. My attempts at diplomatic resolution with the Sasanian Empire also left a lasting impact. The peace treaty we negotiated provided a temporary respite from the constant warfare, allowing Rome to redirect its focus on internal matters. This diplomatic achievement demonstrated the potential for resolving conflicts through negotiation rather than prolonged conflict, a lesson that would be revisited in subsequent imperial policies. The tragic circumstances of my death also highlighted the perils of internal power struggles. The swift and brutal manner in which Appa was dealt with underscored the necessity of loyalty and integrity among those in positions of power. Diocletian's decisive action against Appa set a precedent for dealing with betrayal and cemented his authority, reinforcing the importance of strong, centralized leadership in maintaining the empire's stability. My legacy, however, is perhaps most poignantly remembered through the lessons learned from my reign. The vulnerabilities exposed by my illness and the resulting power vacuum underscored the need for a more robust system of governance. Diocletian's subsequent reforms, including the division of the empire into the tetrarchy, were influenced by the chaotic transitions that marked my and my father's reigns. This new structure aimed to prevent similar crises by distributing power among multiple leaders, thereby ensuring continuity and stability. In the years that followed, historians and scholars reflected on my reign with a mixture of admiration and pity. They acknowledged the challenges I faced and the efforts I made to steer the empire through turbulent times. My dedication to the principles instilled by my father, Carus, and my commitment to Rome's welfare were recognized as noble, even if my reign was ultimately overshadowed by the dramatic events leading to my demise. For those who knew me personally, my memory was kept alive through tales of my determination and the ideals I sought to uphold. My wife, who had stood by me through my illness and the intrigue of the court, ensured that our children grew up with a sense of pride in their heritage. She often recounted stories of our discussions in the family villa, where my father would remind us, "A young mind needs to be filled by knowledge, lest it become idle." These stories served as a beacon of hope and inspiration for future generations. In the grand history that is Rome, my reign may have been but a brief chapter, yet it was a chapter marked by the unwavering commitment to duty and the quest for justice. The reforms I championed, the peace I negotiated, and the tragic end I met all contributed to the evolving narrative of the Roman Empire. As Diocletian's reforms took root and the empire entered a new era, the lessons of my reign endured, shaping the path of an empire that would continue to influence the world for centuries to come. Thus, as I look back from the annals of history, I find solace in knowing that my efforts, my struggles, and even my tragic end were not in vain. They were part of the larger story of Rome, a story of resilience, transformation, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. And in that story, my legacy, though modest, remains an indelible part of the fabric of the empire. Thank you for watching. Our channel, known as the Renaissance Spirit, is dedicated to the pursuits of a just, equitable, and humanitarian world. Video topics encompass areas including history, politics, religion, personal development, society, culture, social and environmental justice, and other topics of liberal arts and sciences, including ancient Rome and the Roman Empire, which is a great comparison and contrast of the modern world. Topics perfect for the true modern polymath. The Renaissance ushered in a golden age and the pursuit of knowledge both lost to time and yet to be discovered. It gave birth to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason. Embracing truth, knowledge, and an understanding and compassion for humanity opens up the world to each of us, individually, and improves all of humanity, affording us the opportunity to be better stewards of the earth and to each other. The Renaissance spirit, more than just a philosophy or style, but a style for living, learning, growing, and thinking. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. If you're looking to explore and experience what life has to offer, I'm sure you'll enjoy the other videos on my channel. Please peruse and let me know in the comments what you get out of them and what other videos you'd like to see. But first, please take the quiz next to see if you're a Renaissance spirit. Live the Renaissance spirit.